One of the first BBCs I gave, I think it was the very first one, was about identities and the different identities that I had picked up growing up, living in this culture, this society. And I've continued to revisit this theme again and again because there's just so many layers to it. And I think it's such a rich way to approach Dharma practice in terms of who are we and how do we treat other people. So I don't know, it came up again recently, and so I wanted to learn more about identity politics because it seems to be something that just keeps increasing in importance. And I don't remember hearing that term a whole lot before I moved here in 2016. I'm sure it was around, but what I was more familiar with was multiculturalism. I think that's what was promoted while I was growing up as a teenager, and about how to create harmony and understanding and inclusion among people by celebrating their individual differences. And that was successful to some extent, definitely. But in some ways, American society seems still very divided. There's been a lot of hate speech, rise in violence motivated by racism and, xenophobia. And so I want to look at, what effect has my identities have on my mind and how I relate to other people. Has it been helpful? Has it been not so helpful? And what came to mind was an experience I had, I guess it was about a year after I moved here. We invited a local Black activist to come and give a diversity training at the Abbey. And we were all sitting in a circle, and I remember identifying myself as a triple minority. And it seemed completely normal at the time. I was like kind of proud of it. But from where I'm sitting now, I see that there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of anger there. And there's this feeling like I've been a victim growing up in this very cruel and unjust society. And that makes me very sad. And I can see how it's really blocked me from opening my heart to all beings, to all people, and from being able to see how I'm the same as others. I did grow up in a very multicultural environment. People from all over the world were in my school, and I never felt like an outsider. But somehow recently it seems that this fear has just kind of crept back in and it's been growing. And so I really realize I need to work on this if I'm to continue growing my ability to love others impartially. So I've realized that, holding identities, why is that so attractive? And for a long time, it's been like a refuge. It's been something clear that I could always turn to, rely on. Whenever I felt lost or confused at school, I knew where to sit in the lunchroom. I knew what kinds of entertainment to enjoy. I knew what kinds of books to read, what kind of authors to praise, and so on. And it just sort of seemed to be something solid, which is really hard to come by within samsara, where everything is always changing. It also let me know what goals to have in life and how to relate to other people. But at the same time, as it bonded me to certain people, it also distanced me from others. And it seems like the group of others was always larger than the group of same. I don't know, it just seemed to function in that way. And I noticed that identities became to be like an armor that I would carry around. And so whenever I meet somebody new, it's always like, race, gender, class, sexuality, all that was just who I am. And that also became who they are. And in the process, I couldn't relate to them as a human being. I was just seeing them through these like abstractions. And of course, I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel very safe. I felt like I didn't know who they really were. They probably didn't know who I was. I mean, it's all coming from my mind. And I think that's what clinging very tightly to these identities can do. And then there's also this trend or this emphasis in American society to be unique, to be you. We went to this Pride event last night for interfaith preachers and religious people. And they were saying, celebrate you, be you. So there, there's all this encouragement we get to be somebody unique. And I think that can go a little bit too far sometimes. It can become a little pathological, and we're constantly trying to find, how am I different? What makes me special? So we can be a hot item on social media. And eventually we realize, oh my gosh, I'm not the same as anybody. Who do I connect with? We feel, the circle just getting smaller and smaller. And I remember the activist saying that she had gone to like a parenting group for like single lesbian Black mothers. And she said, well, these are, I'm the only person who doesn't have a car. I mean, she didn't say this. And then she looked for another group that, met that little group of qualifiers. And then she found something different. Like, oh, they're not the same as me. I don't have this. And so eventually she said, I felt like I had nowhere to go. So that really stuck with me. And I think that that's a real danger that can happen. Another disadvantage of having really solid identities is we don't think creatively. We really just listen to others who we see as like us. We stick to the party line. We don't want to question things because we feel like we'll be ostracized. I think this is leading to a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of one-sided news reporting. And then the world just becomes smaller and smaller. It starts to feel more like a prison. Not to mention that how easy it is to label others as enemies once we see them as other and as different than us. Looking at my own identities, I saw that there's a lot of emotional baggage from the past that gets dredged up whenever I think about them. Being a teenager, being a young girl, being a young woman, looking for a job, not feeling like I had equal opportunities. And that's really not helpful. I'm not those people at all. Those people are gone. They're ceased, having ceased. So why do I keep relating to them in that way? Why do I carry their emotional wounds around with me? It doesn't serve any benefit. And then I've noticed identities involve a lot of projection into the future. We constantly have to be doing things to maintain our belonging within a certain group. We have to get a good job. We have to earn a certain amount of money. We have to have a certain car, certain clothes, so that we know we belong in that group. And I think that the alternative to all of this past and future tripping is to really just admit that we're always changing. As human beings, we're not fixed. And we can't be really captured neatly by these labels. And recognizing that the same is true of others too, they're always changing also, we can then greet others with more curiosity, with more ease, more play, and even learn things from people who we thought were very different than us at first. So the solution is also not to do away with identities altogether. We need identities to function in the conventional world. So what are some more helpful ones? I was trying to think. I think human being is a really nice one when you're relating to other humans, but then it leaves out the animals and the other beings if you're Buddhist and so sentient being, that's a good one. And you hear it over and over again in Buddhism, so that means all other living beings. We see our sameness, our commonality, and we want to love them. We want to feel connected to them. Buddhas or bodhisattvas in training, I think that's another really nice identity to have because it emphasizes our altruistic intention and how we wish to be of benefit to others. And then one that His Holiness uses a lot is friend. He says, I'm a friend to all people, and all people are a friend to me. So all of these are still labels and identities, but I think they do a much better job of capturing our full potential and encourage us to relate in positive and healthy ways to others. And then, as a result, anger and isolation are much less likely to come up when we see ourselves through these lenses and see others in that way too. So the Buddha, he was very wise about these things. Venerable Chojen recently read a quote on Friday night. He said, "Nothing whatsoever goes from this life to the next." And he was talking about the aggregates and the conventional self. And I just love that quote for some reason. But I think nothing whatsoever goes from one moment to the next. Our aggregates are always arising and ceasing. So I really want to hang on to this and use it as a means to develop compassion, openness when I relate to other people. And ultimately, the goal is to realize that no person, including ourselves, has any inherent essence that's unique to them alone. And once we realize this, all of our neuroses will disappear. And along with all of our isolation from our own Buddha nature and from the Buddha nature of others.